anytime, day or night. From the land to the sea. Patrolling the east coast of Australia. The rescue team from SeaWorld is on call. When marine animals send out an SOS. Trapped, sick, injured or orphaned. Chances are they'll be the first to help.
Not a whale shark, that's for sure.
I'm David Whitehill, and I'll be riding with the SeaWorld rescue team as they risk their lives helping our underwater friends. This is Ocean Rescue. Australia's East Coast, a popular playground for holidaymakers. It's also a popular home for an incredibly diverse range of animals. Some of them are endangered and need our protection. Others need rescuing. SeaWorld's Trevor Long has been patrolling these waters for 4 decades. Every day on the job brings a new challenge. Today, he's headed out to sea. There's double trouble in the water. 2 humpback whales, a mother and a calf. The youngster is trapped in a shark net. The challenge will be getting it out. This situation is extremely dangerous, but Trevor has plenty of experience. There's no time to waste. Whales must breathe air to survive. If that net drags the calf too far under, it won't be able to reach the surface and it'll drown.
Big man.
The calf's mother is circling, growing increasingly anxious. The team needs to keep a safe distance while still trying to free the baby.
What I want you to do, you monitor all behaviour at time, so note the time now, note the respiration and any behaviour. So if it's violent behaviour, note it. If you see the respiration start to increase and also behaviour starts to increase, like violent behaviour, trying to flee and things like that, I want you to make a note of that as well.
Extra large helmets.
Helmets are vital. Whales can weigh up to 20 tonnes, and a tail can do a lot of damage if it comes crashing down.
It looks like it's probably an animal that's been born this season if it's still got an animal that's a parent to it. The animal is distressed, you can see it's distressed, its breathing's quite laboured. I think that's probably a product of the sea state and the net around the head.
The first step is assessing the situation and getting a better idea of the risks involved. A smaller boat is used, it's less stressful on the animals. The good news is the baby is still alive.
What I want to do, there's the whale, that's the whale there, the net's out there, right? What I want to do, I want to get parallel to that, right? And I want so I can get a grapple on there. But what we're going to do is get another grapple, put it on the back now. Okay?
Grapples are hooks that are used to lift the shark nets. It's a slow and complicated process. It takes patience and a lot of courage.
Let him run a bit, Trev. Just let it settle down.
Right, hold it back, hold it back, hold it back!
Let it go, Trev. We're off the
It's going okay. There's only one little bit there on the left-hand side of the tail. We're quite safe. The animal, we can get the tail up under the boat. That way, it can't get to us, and then we can get access to the rope. But Mum's quite good. She's just coming in and having a look. She's probably coming in and saying to the baby, "Come on, you've got to get going," So no, Mum's okay, and she's quite cool.
A few minutes later, success. The calf is free, and the deadly net is dragged on board.
look, I hate the nets, but I quite enjoy the fact that we can assist them and can help them. And I think the fact that we've gained so much experience over the years in being able to read behaviour, but also trying to work out ways and methods of getting the gear cut without getting injured.
Trevor and the SeaWorld team will rescue several whales each year. The problem won't vanish until the nets do. When it comes to caring for marine animals, the SeaWorld Research and Rescue Foundation is perfectly equipped for the job. It offers nursery care for orphans, high-tech medical facilities, and an extensive recovery and rehabilitation program to ensure the animals get back to the wild. Today, I'm catching up with a couple of the smaller and feistier patients currently in care. Both of these New Zealand fur seal pups are recovering from shark bites. When this young male was found washed up on rocks, he also had a hook embedded in his jaw. He was exhausted and didn't put up much of a fight when the SeaWorld team captured him. Without their help, he would be in real trouble if he returned to the water in his state. All too often, predators will feed on the youngsters, as they are slower and easier to catch than the adult seals. This female is doing well in SeaWorld's care, but she's off of food. The only option left is to force feed her.
Open. Slowly, yep. Yep, go down, baby. Good girl.
The reason this has to be done is because carers need to make sure the nutrients are getting into the animal. Surprisingly, a lot of times the animals will start to eat for themselves, which is optimal because that way it reduces the stress on the animal and gets that food into them. The food has given the female a much needed boost, and it isn't long before she's showing everyone who's boss. You can see there's quite a lot of interaction between these two animals now. They've been coming together, so they're just working out who's the dominant animal at the moment, especially when they're in this small area. But you do need to keep them in this kind of scenario because we need access to them so that you can look after them and rehabilitate them. So it won't take too long, but they'll start to sort themselves out. Seals are social animals, so it's important they always have company. This will help keep them happy, speeding up their recovery. There's only one thing better than saving an animal, and that's returning it to the ocean where it belongs. But some of the rescued animals can pose a life-threatening risk to the SeaWorld team.
We have a first aid kit on hand with a compression bandage, and we usually always have a mobile phone if we're going out to the beach to pick an animal up so that we can call an ambulance if we need to.
These yellow-bellied sea snakes are poisonous. In fact, they are some of the world's most venomous reptiles, but their small fangs make it hard for them to bite you. These creatures get into trouble when they wash up on beaches in high seas or when they're shedding their skins. Luckily, the rescue team is available to lend a helping hand.
We keep them here for as short a time as possible because they don't feed for us. We provide live food for them, but they don't eat, dead food that we provide for them. So the idea is just to get them through that first few days or a week and then get them back into the ocean once they're strong again.
Sea snakes are relatively shy creatures. If you ever see them on the beach, it's best to walk away and tell a lifeguard. You should never let children near them. And off they go, with hardly a backward glance. Back at the vet and quarantine centre, the team is about to do a checkup on a very special dolphin. His name is Cliffy, and he's becoming a regular patient. Cliffy first came in over a year ago after he was found tangled in fishing line. He'd been hanging around boat ramps and taking food from people. The team treated him for fishing line injuries and released him back into the wild. But it seems Cliffy loves the limelight. Once again, he began feeding from fishermen and interacting with the public. It was a recipe for disaster. Boats, lines and bad food can make him very sick. So Cliffy was brought back in for his own good. He's now in the expert care of SeaWorld's veterinarian, David Blyde. Today the team is taking blood samples as Cliffy appears to be losing weight.
He hasn't been eating as well as we would have expected him to. So today we want to weigh him and make sure that his conditions are right and obtain a blood sample from him and just check his general health.
Moving a powerful marine animal like a dolphin isn't always easy. A flick of that tail can do some serious damage. It'd be like being kicked by a horse. The tail's the best place to draw blood. Cliffy's not too happy about the whole process.
This is the easiest area to access a vein on a dolphin. They have a vein that runs down the length of the tail parallel to the front of the tail fluke, and it's very accessible by needle. It's quite shallow, and we can obtain a really nice blood sample from there.
Those scars are evidence of Cliffy's past encounter with a fishing line.
It had hooks and line attached to it. But all of these scars, this scar here, this one here, this one just under here, these are all past injuries where this animal's been trapped with fishing line, and the animal's tail movements works the line deeper into the body. So this is the reason why this animal's really not suitable for release anymore, because he's going to go straight back to the wild and do exactly the same thing, socialise with humans.
For the moment, the best place for Cliffy is right here. The team is introducing him to Tuffy, a playmate of his own kind. Hopefully, it'll encourage him to hang with dolphins rather than humans.
I'd have Tuffy on the other side.
Yeah, pretty nice.
People should never feed wild animals. Food dependency could easily result in the animal's death. But for Cliffy, it's so far so good. There are no signs of aggression and he seems to be enjoying his new playmate.
Just wanted to log on. We'll be working in the Byron Bay area. We just wanted to log on with you. We're not sure how long we'll be down here. We may come back home tonight.
Another day, another rescue. This time the team is racing to save a grey nurse shark that is in serious trouble.
The local divers down there have come across a shark that its mouth is agape, so it's open like this, and it seems to have wire wrapped around the top of its head, and it won't allow the jaws shut. Now that's what we're assuming.
Finding the shark shouldn't be a problem. It was first sighted at a protected marine area where grey nurse sharks make stopovers on their annual winter migration north. That means it's likely to still be in the area, and that's good news. Getting the shark to cooperate will be another matter. This is when some underwater cowboy tricks come in handy. The only way to bring it in is to lasso it. This animal is really weak. Leaving it here would mean a death sentence.
It's still moving around, but it appears that there is some significant damage to the lower jaw. The prognosis for this animal appears pretty grim.
Stretcher! Stretcher it is. Stretcher! Stretcher!
Every single one of these sharks is precious. In the 1960s and 70s, spearfishers targeted grey nurses, and as a result, their numbers have fallen dramatically. Now, there's less than 500 along the east coast of Australia. This one is struggling to even move.
Pull it out towards you. Now you put it on, huh? Pull his tail back.
Grab your bar now. Your bar.
It's extremely unusual that this shark is so placid. He's very ill, but it gives the crew valuable time to make an assessment.
He's not a well shark, that's for sure.
No, not good. Not good.
Well, it's got a very old wound here, very lot of old scar tissue. Now that could be from an old gaff injury. It looks like there's a hook embedded in the corner of the mouth in here, you can see in there. That one, and also, yeah, there's something right in that corner there. We'll have a scope him down his esophagus, get down to the gut and have a look at what we're dealing with.
It's moving towards me.
When you're this close to razor-sharp teeth, something as simple as a piece of plastic piping can come in really handy. It's the best way of stopping those jaws slamming shut on your arm.
At least it's not dislocated, Dave.
Doesn't look like it.
The endoscope is providing a clear image of the shark's stomach. It appears to have a major infection in its gut. And there was some fishing tackle in there as well.
But that's not causing a problem, I don't think.
No, it's this one here, mate. See that one there? That'll be the problem child there.
It seems the real damage is on the outside. It could be that something as small as a fishing hook is slowly killing this shark.
It's not a well shark, it hasn't eaten for a very long time. He's very, very thin. But as I said, you know, these animals are critically endangered, and if we can do anything with this animal to save it, we will.
This animal will need long-term treatment if it's going to survive.
He's going to take it back to SeaWorld and assess it. And that way we can see whether there's a hook in that jaw or whether there's some arthritis in that jaw, and we'll be able to treat it and hopefully be able to release it.
Further north on the beaches of Australia's Cape York Peninsula, I'm about to take part in a very special release. This is an olive Ridley turtle by the name of Jewel, and she's been in rehabilitation for about 6 months in Cairns. And she had quite severe injuries to her front two flippers due to a ghost net. She's regained a lot of strength and she's really ready to get back out into the ocean. So this is a good success story, especially because she's a breeding female. So we want to make sure that we can look after as many of these animals as possible. This girl won't be going anywhere unless the team from the Cape's conservation groups can monitor her progress. That's where this satellite tracking device comes in. After so much time and care, the team wants to know she can make it on her own. It's really quite important to make sure that we get this scientific data so that we know where they're breeding, we know where they're actually feeding, and we can protect those areas. Unfortunately, there are dozens of endangered turtles like Jewel needing this level of care in Australia's north each year.
From Cape York Peninsula we're starting to get a fair few more because they're caught in these ghost nets, and with entanglement the animals can't get out and they're carried for thousands or hundreds of kilometres across the ocean and put up on the beach, and they've usually got horrific injuries.
Turtles have always been important to the Australian Indigenous community. There's a need to promote sustainability and conservation practices because the turtle is a source of food.
I fell very in love with the turtle because I'm very passionate about what I'm doing. It's in conservation, and I just love the turtles. And hopefully she'll be being released today and heading back home.
It's a perfect day to say goodbye.
He's had too much stress.
Jewel doesn't hesitate. And if it all goes well, she could live up to 60 years. Well done, ladies. Very, very good. Well done. It's a sad farewell for her carers, but a necessary one.
How do you feel?
Oh, you're right. It's very emotional this time, isn't it? One of your babies. There, look.
Very happy. Yep, that's a great moment.
It's the ideal ending to Jewel's story. It's just a shame it had to happen in the first place. Well, these are the ghost nets that we've been talking about. And to have these sort of drifting through the ocean, you can see how big it is. It's just an indiscriminate killer, just taking out not only turtles, but dolphins and dugongs and all other sea creatures as well. And you can tell how they get caught up in this, like it's terrible. So we've got to stop these coming onto the beach in the first place, but you know, you've got to get this stuff off the beach if we can as well. Back at base, the shark with the injured jaw is getting ready to check into the medical centre. It's hard to believe this is one of the world's most feared creatures, lying calmly between the ankles of a carer. Up close, you can see how malnourished this animal is. It should weigh about 160 kilos, but it hasn't been able to eat, and its weight has dropped by about 25%. The first thing that needs to be done is an ultrasound to see if any other foreign objects are embedded in its jaw. Blood tests are also vital to measure the extent of the infection. Finally, a drip needs to be inserted to ensure the shark gets some much needed nourishment and fast.
Just off centre.
All these tests are possible by placing the shark on his back. He literally can't move. This technique is called tonic immobilisation, and it works on most species of sharks, but nobody knows why. After hours of examination, the team is stumped, but they won't give up. They've called in another expert for advice.
If there's some sort of muscle damage or ligament damage or something like that, unless that can be healed, then the prognosis isn't good.
The next step is to create a custom-built wetsuit to take the pressure off a wound on the shark's chest. Because he's so sick, he was resting on the bottom of the ocean and is continuing to do so in the pool.
We can work out from this one and do another one.
Air in that water just goes in.
A Lisa rubber from the wetsuit should allow the wound to heal. It seems like a lot of effort, but it's worth it, because returning this shark healthy to the ocean could help save this critically endangered species. Also, the grey nurse is the only shark known to maintain buoyancy by gulping air into its stomach, but this guy has taken in too much and can't swim properly. So some air needs to be pumped out.
10 years ago, this animal just would have been killed and left to die.
Ready? You're right on this side? Yep. 1, 2, 3.
The shark is also X-rayed. The team is literally in uncharted waters. Until now, it hasn't been typical for sharks to be rescued and treated.
No, put him back. Back in the stretcher. You know, the shark's hanging in there at the moment. It's been here now 24 hours. We've done a fair few procedures to it today, which is pretty stressful on the animal. So, but it's still looking in reasonable nick. But you know, as I said at the beginning of this adventure, the prognosis for this animal is still very poor.
Only time will tell. Out on the water, I'm joining the SeaWorld research team for some groundbreaking work. The mission is to tag up to 30 dugongs. These gentle sea cows need to be tracked in order to map their habitat and breeding grounds. Research is a big part of SeaWorld's work.
Oh God, that is a huge dugong.
I'm with Trevor and scientists from the University of Queensland. The challenge here will be catching the dugongs.
Something with the dugongs is that they don't really have too much of a defence mechanism, and really all they use is their size and their power. So once the boys actually get up here and they have to jump onto the animal, it is really a rough ride. You got to be careful. You get whacked by one of those tails and you definitely know about it.
Adult dugongs have an average weight of 500 kilograms. This research will help protect them now and into the future. There are approximately 11,000 dugongs living off Queensland's coast. But humans and their activities are a constant threat to them and the seagrass they feed on. It seems hard to believe, but centuries ago, sailors mistook these slow-moving creatures for mermaids. They were easy to spot because they prefer shallow waters. Today, there's no fiction, just fact, as the animal is measured, blood sampled, swabbed and tagged. Australia has the world's largest dugong population, and that makes it the most important refuge on the planet for these vulnerable animals. Back at the Rehabilitation Centre, RB, a bottlenose dolphin, is about to undergo a pretty sophisticated procedure. RB has been losing weight, so David is using an endoscope to look for signs of disease. High-tech medical machines are not just for humans. You can't sedate a dolphin, it's just too risky. So the SeaWorld team straddles RB to keep this powerful animal safe and under control.
So you're just getting down towards the stomach now. All we're looking for is any sort of gastric bleeding, so we'll pick up some ulcerations. So now there we are right in the stomach, and we got some fish fat. Doesn't look like there's anything obvious in there, guys.
It's good news. There's no bleeding, just a lot of water. It's like an oceanside cave in there. Dolphin stomachs are compartmentalised for quick digestion because they don't chew their food. They eat up to 6% of their body weight each day in fish, squid and crustaceans. The test shows it's all good, and there's no reason why RB shouldn't be better soon. At the airport, a very unusual passenger arrives on a late night flight.
That's right, David, turn around.
Dave 7 handles.
That's
The badly hurt baby dugong is just days old. It was found separated from his mum off the coast of North Queensland. Trevor Long and the SeaWorld team face an incredible challenge.
Well, he's calm. I think that's about all I can say at the moment. You can see the rake marks from other males there.
This little guy is facing an uphill battle. He's stressed and he needs around-the-clock feeding and attention.
You can just start to see his backbone coming through here, so it's a bit thin. It's probably a bit dehydrated, you know, hasn't eaten for maybe days. So I think the first thing we're going to do is to weigh it. Come back a little bit. 29.3 kilo.
That's too light. There's no doubt he needs some serious TLC. He probably got those wounds from the tusks of other males. Calves that stay with their mums rarely suffer these nasty attacks. He was probably orphaned shortly after his birth. A check over reveals more wounds and a fresh umbilicus point. Finally, it's back in the water for his first feed. It's a massive shock to his system to be without his mum and out of the ocean. But SeaWorld Dugong carer Wendy Blanchard is patient. Just like most newborns, it's not easy. It takes her all night to get him to take a little of the milk, which is a veterinary mammal formula mixed with coconut cream for extra fat content and some antibiotics. Dugongs are listed as a vulnerable species. Over the past 30 years, their numbers have plummeted 60%. They live for up to 70 years, but females only reproduce every 5 years or so. And because they are slow-moving creatures, they are easy targets and often can't move fast enough to avoid boats. It's critical he starts to eat, otherwise he'll go downhill fast. Once he's weaned and starts to grow, he'll eat about 30 kilograms of lettuce each day. In the wild, they eat various types of seagrasses. The fact this little one is starting to take the milk is a good sign. Back at the shark enclosure, veterinarian David Blyde is getting ready to operate on a 350 kilo patient, a Dusky whaler shark. But first, they have to catch it. This shark could do some real damage if she wants to, but the team has it well under control. Firstly, one crew feeds the net into the water. Below the surface, SeaWorld divers section off the area, trapping the Dusky whaler at one end of the pool, where there are no other sharks.
What we're going to do, we're going to bring this area down, make the area quite small, and then we'll put the sock in the water, and then the shark will swim up, get one side of the net, and then it'll swim into the sock. That's as simple as it is.
That growth on her snout doesn't just look ugly, it'll keep growing until she can't feed anymore. Dusky whalers are targeted by humans hunting shark fins. The animal's flesh is sold fresh, frozen, dried and salted. Thankfully, here she's just another patient. The divers work with the rest of the SeaWorld team to corral the shark into one corner of the netted area. This takes some time. The approach is calm and gentle. It's just too dangerous to provoke the animal in any way. Because of its large size, the Dusky shark is considered to be potentially dangerous, though little is known of its behaviour towards humans.
Hey Gab, can you just have a look underwater again, mate?
Eventually, the team guides the shark into the sock. Trevor closes off the escape route as the operating gurney is lowered into the water. Now for the treatment. This lumpy mass is called granulation tissue, and it's probably an abnormal reaction to some trauma to the snout.
Check the float, the level float is pumping.
Cutting it off is the only answer, so the area is numbed with anaesthetic, and the surgery begins.
Seals the vessel so that we're not getting a lot of bleeding.
Breathing is a problem though, because sharks breathe by pumping water through their mouth and gills to get the oxygen as they swim along. Here, a pump delivers medical oxygen, helping to keep her alive.
It was a good operation, and David did a great job. As you can see, it's not an easy situation to do. We're trying to keep the animal in the water, and it all went exceptionally well. Another success story. At least we didn't get the grade that nose.
Yeah.
While most marine rescues happen in the ocean, occasionally some animals end up a little off track. SeaWorld's team is responding to 3 dolphins, including a mother and her baby trapped in a lake. Mum and baby and another adult dolphin have ventured too far upstream, where there is too little food and too many humans, and now they're stuck.
The dolphins have been in the lake since Sunday, I believe, and the salinity level of the lake is too low, so that's the issue why it's sort of expedited the removal.
After hours of deliberation between the SeaWorld team, National Parks and Wildlife officers and dolphin experts, Trevor and David settle on a strategy. The best way to catch these dolphins is to use baby to encourage mum to come in.
We need to catch the baby first. So, whoever, if the baby swims past you, you grab it. You need to go to that person and take that baby.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the other animals. They're very difficult to catch at the best of times, and there's a whole lot of things that can go wrong, from the animal getting caught in the net and drowning, stop breathing when it gets out of the water, just physiological shock. So the idea is to hold the animal in the water for as long as we can.
These bottlenose dolphins can't survive in fresh water. The risk of losing one, or all, is very real.
Our primary concern at this point in time is the baby. The 2 older animals are certainly a little bit more of a robust nature, that they will probably accept the stresses a little bit better than what the baby will. They're very skittish, they panic, and they drown in a panic mode very quickly.
At first, it seems their worst fears are realised. The dolphins are panicking. Baby just wants her mum. The bond is so strong, and baby signals mum through the water. Dolphin pregnancies last 12 months, and baby dolphins are born in shallow waters. They take up to 20 months to wean, but they stay with their mum for several years after.
The baby's okay, it's distressed, but it's okay and it's breathing. So we're pretty good so far.
After corralling the animals in a net, Baby is finally reunited with her tired mum for the trip back to the ocean, back where they belong.
What would give it breathing to stop breathing?
It's just shock, mate.
Speed okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Breath.
How long, Wally? What's the time frame to get there?
Sorry?
What's 10 minutes? 10 minutes.
It seems there's never a dull moment for the ocean rescue team. A report has come in that another giant of the sea has gotten itself in serious trouble. These beautiful animals are a common sight off Queensland's Gold Coast as they migrate north each winter. But this pair has been waylaid by a dangerous and life-threatening situation. Trevor's team has found a young whale caught by the tail. His mum is understandably anxious, but releasing him is tricky. One flick of that tail fluke would feel like you've been hit by a bus.
That might look dangerous. In actual fact, it's not. Every time that animal propels its tail up and down, it's actually moving away from you. So you've got to understand that situation. So we actually have control.
Just when it seems impossible, the team release him from the net and he's away. But things don't always go according to plan. The SeaWorld team has some sad news. The grey nose shark has lost his battle and died. He couldn't beat the enormous infection caused by the gaff hook injury. The shark probably suffered for as long as a year before he was rescued. It was just too late to save him. But it's the success stories that keep the team going. Up at the Dolphin nursery, it's happy news. Hallie is a female bottlenose dolphin and she's expecting her second baby. It's a rare chance to see how advanced medical procedures can help our marine life. In the wild, dolphins calve every 3 years.
The real skill in ultrasounding dolphins is getting the animals to cooperate. So the training of the procedure is the most important.
This way, when the time comes for the crucial examination, it's just part of the routine for the expectant dolphin. As she responds to familiar commands, there's no fuss and the test can go ahead.
The head's facing up this way, so that's sort of head up there, and these are the ribs down here. That's the spine going down there.
The fetus is 20 weeks old and appears to be growing well. The scan doesn't reveal any problems.
One of the problems we get when the animals are this far into their pregnancy is that the babies seem to be able to sense the ultrasounds, and they squirm a lot in the uterus, and the mothers react to that.
It's a successful test, and if the pregnancy runs smoothly over the next 7 months, SeaWorld will welcome another addition to Dolphin Bay. team is heading back to the ocean for one of its biggest challenges yet. And I'm riding along on this one.
What we're looking for is a grey nose shark that's been spotted over the last 3 days, and unfortunately it seems to have a gaff hook that has gone down into its throat and is stuck somewhere in its esophagus.
It's sticking out of its mouth by about 600 millimetres. So the animal can't feed. It would appear that there's light algae on the pole, so it's probably been there for 2 weeks. So the animal's going to die. If nobody does anything, you can't forage, you can't grab on its prey, so it will die.
The shark was spotted in a grey nurse migration area, and remarkably, she was still there when the team went to look for her 2 days later.
On Friday, I basically had it was basically underneath where that boat.
It's a disturbing reminder of the human impact on marine life. Getting the hook out will be the real challenge.
We'll have to assess that when we bring the shark out. Gaff hooks are pretty sharp on the end. They're a big sort of U-shape. So what we have to do is push it backwards and then bring it out, put something on the hook so that we don't damage the animal as we're bringing the hook out.
It's hard to watch, but wrangling the 100 kilogram shark into a plastic cocoon is vital. Forcing her to cooperate is the only way to save her life.
Just let it calm down. Calm down there. She'll just go into a couple of inches.
Temporarily immobilised, the shark won't move for at least another 15 minutes, and that's enough time for the team to do its work. Getting that tube in around the hook's handle is relatively easy, but now comes the hard part. David has to feel his way. His whole arm is in there. Removing that sharp hook could cause bigger problems, so David covers the sharp tip with his finger. Then he turns the gaff hook so the tip is inside the pipe, and he slowly drags both out of the shark's mouth.
There it is. It's inside the tube. Well done! No, it's gone exceptionally well. We had the easy part, David had the hard part, as you can see there. Put your hand inside a shark's mouth, but it's gone exceptionally well. So very, very lucky you've seen the gap that's come out. It's pretty horrific, and it's a shame people do that. That's the thing, there's no need to do it. Okay, let it go! Outside one's out! Let's push her out, never down.
It's another chance at life for this mature female, and hopefully now she'll successfully reproduce, helping to boost numbers of her critically endangered species. And that's what ocean rescue is all about.